Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on green guidance. We're very pleased to have you here. We've got an hour to cover a range of different elements around guidance to support environmental sustainability. We're going to tell you about a new working paper which the OECD has produced, and you'll be able to find details of that in the comments in the chat. We're going to invite you to offer your own comments, any questions you might have for our speakers. If you want to do that, please again put them in the chat, please. Over the next hour, we're going to hear from Young Chang, who is the analyst at the OECD who's led our work here. She's going to give you an overview of the paper. And then we have some practice examples from Austria with Marcus Gruber from Austria and David Blackmore from the UK are going to give you some examples from which we particularly highlighted in this paper. And then we're very pleased that we have Dr. Peter Plant from the University of Southeastern Norway, who's going to provide a commentary. Peter is the leading academic in this field, kind of working on green guidance. So why don't you take a moment? You can always say hello to everybody, tell us where you're from in the chat. Be sure to add your own comments and questions for the speakers. We're going to go through all the presentations, then we'll have time for discussion. So at this point, I am going to hand over to my colleague, Young Chang, who will tell you about the new working paper from the OECD. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Anthony. I'm just going to share my screen here so that I can provide an overview of our work on green guidance. Okay. So our work was largely inspired by the understanding that the green transition will drive significant transformation of the labor market. So in economic policy, the green transition is understood as a transformation of all economic sectors to net zero emissions of greenhouse gases. So within the next decade, we can expect significant changes to the labor market in 4 ways. So we'll have new types of jobs that will emerge. These are the green jobs. And then we will have the loss of some existing jobs. So these are ones that contribute to climate change and environmental degradation, otherwise known as brown jobs. And then there will be a shift in the skills and knowledge that are required for many jobs, and there will be a strong local angle. So you might be wondering, an important question is, what are green jobs anyway, and how do we define them? Well, that is a very good question, and there is a lot of debate around this. But basically, the empirical literature draws upon 2 dominant approaches for quantifying and classifying green jobs. So we've got the top-down and the bottom-up. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I just want to emphasize that definitions vary widely across international organizations, governments, and industries. And this lack of consensus or a common language around green jobs is really hindering coherent provision of green guidance and understanding of the role of green guidance. So, but yeah, you can find more detailed discussion on the debate in the working paper. But also another important question is the green sector strategically an advantageous sector to enter? Again, labor market studies come to very different conclusions about global green employment because the estimates depend on the countries, the parts of the economy assessed, the timeframes and definitions applied. So here you could see that green jobs can be estimated to be as low as 2% to as high as 55%, even within the same region. So this particular example here is from the UK. But what we are seeing across the OECD is that green jobs are representing approximately 19% of the labor demand, and polluting jobs now only account for about 5% of vacancies. So in many parts of the world, green jobs are now considered to be among the fastest growing and the most resilient. So this is a good trend. But globally, skills gaps and shortages are being recognized as bottlenecks. And so here you can see the different headlines all pointing to this widespread concern about skill shortages and talent gaps. So what does this mean for tomorrow's workforce? Well, for young people approaching the labor market, this has very important consequences. So many students exhibit a key interest in environmental sustainability. And when we look at the PISA 2018 data, which had a strong focus on sustainability, we see positive trends in their attitudes and understanding of environmental issues. But despite these high interest levels, we only have 57% of students saying that they feel like they can do something about the global environmental challenges. And this is why, well, I see the potential of green guidance to help bridge the gap between student interest and perhaps entering a green career in the future where they really have the agency to meaningfully engage in solving global environmental challenges. So previous work conducted by the OECD on teenage career readiness show that career guidance provision is promising, but it's not yet completely proven, but we know that typically it is expected to work, and that the labor market is not signaling very well to students. So here you can see that students are showing high levels of career uncertainty, confusion, and concentration. Now, this is the 2022 data, but this has also been the case in previous cycles. So many students here seem to be unaware of the labor market opportunities provided by the green transition. But this is also where I want to mention the limitations with ISCO, which is another widely used tool for categorizing green jobs, because we use the ISCO and the PISA to code and measure student career aspirations, but it was last updated in 2008. But given the rapid growth of the green sector, as we had just discussed, the ISCO does not completely capture all the nuances of the green tasks that are now being embedded within these different sectors and that, all these jobs that are transforming. So we can't quite say with certainty or clarity whether students are interested in green jobs and how their interests may have evolved over the years. But what is clear is that employers are not signaling well to young people, and they are also having trouble filling green job vacancies. And I also want to point out that our longitudinal work shows that effective career guidance systems can help students explore, experience, and think about their futures in work. And this is important because exploring allows students to have access to authentic and reliable labor market information to really understand some of their career options. And experiencing helps them become engaged with the workplace and become exposed to the labor market and develop valuable skills, knowledge, values, and attitudes for employment. And thinking about their futures can inspire students to develop career aspirations and work towards their goals. So against this backdrop, we set out to conceptualize green guidance. We reviewed 87 guidance programs designed for K-12 education from 20 OECD countries, and you can see the distribution graph here. The programs outlined here show the really good work that is happening in this area, and it is by no means an exhaustive list. Of all the initiatives in this field, it only represents a first international review. So feel free to share with us any others that you are aware of that were not mentioned in the paper. We'd love to know about them. And so in order to understand and conceptualize green guidance, we use this definition of green jobs. And it's really a mix of the two dominant approaches that I had mentioned before. So it's about combating climate change, restoring the environment, reducing harmful impact. But it also has that added element of well-being of individuals and communities. So green job is not just about having a job and getting a salary, but more about understanding the impact of the individual to the environment and of my career that has broader implications on my community and society. So this was the result of our review. Here at the foundation level, we have environmental literacy because that supports student capacity for engaging in career development opportunities that involve exploring, experiencing, and thinking about green jobs. So environmental literacy really supports students to meaningfully engage with progressively more advanced, active green career development activities. And that's where this arrow here is showing. So on this level here, you can see how student environmental literacy is leveraged to provide opportunities for understanding green jobs through exploration. And this can be done in two ways, by providing personalized guidance and by applied learning. Now, effective and equitable career guidance will personalize provision. This means it takes into account their individual needs for career development, and it tailors provision to the individual. And what we mean by the applied learning is providing opportunities for students to connect the curriculum to their futures and jobs. So for instance, in a mathematics class, a teacher might say, oh, this concept is used by environmental engineers to measure pollution levels. So then students can see that connection with what they're learning in the school is actually related to something that actual people do in their jobs, and it can be a green job. Okay, and then as students build understanding and interest in green careers, green guidance programs can then help students to work towards green jobs through experiencing jobs. And they can do this by providing timely and relevant labor market insights that support informed thinking. By providing tools to deepen understanding of themselves, they can assess their key skills, attitudes, knowledge, and values that are needed to enter environmentally oriented careers. And lastly, career guidance, green guidance goes beyond building theoretical knowledge by facilitating hands-on engagement with green workplaces, because just having this theoretical knowledge is not sufficient to develop a comprehensive understanding of the realities of the workplace. So we really see green guidance as a diverse set of career development interventions that can actively support students in exploring, experiencing, and thinking about the characteristics and opportunities provided by the green transition. So starting from a young age, it's important that students are informed about these green employment sectors that are aligned with their interests for the environment that we had seen in the PISA, for instance, that are aligned with their values, their skills, and their knowledge. And this is also critical because green jobs hold strategic importance for societies and economies, and it's going to be more so the case. And we saw that in many sectors, they're already wrestling with shortages and skills and unfilled vacancies. And lastly, green guidance should not be seen as a standalone form of career development, but rather as an important component of wider career guidance that can really help to bridge student interest with labor market demands and ensure that all students can be well equipped to make meaningful contributions to a more sustainable and greener future. So thank you very much. I know I went through that very quickly, but I look forward to your questions and comments later. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Young, for that sort of like brief overview of what's in the working paper, which includes plentiful examples of practice from around the world. I should let people know that we're going to be publishing a more summarized version of the paper over the next few weeks. If you sign up for our newsletter, we'll let you know when that comes out. John will put the details again in the chat. If you have questions for Young or any of our speakers, put them in the chat and we'll have a discussion session at the end. But we're going to move now to two examples of practice which feature in the paper. The first is from Austria, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Markus Gruber to tell us about an exciting initiative in Austria to support green development. Markus, over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. So I'm Markus from the federal government of Lower Austria. I want to present our current project called Green Jobs for You. I will share the screen. So, okay. This project is part of the Climate and Energy Plan 2030 of Lower Austria. Our plan is, or our goal is to create 10,000 new jobs in Lower Austria. It was launched in 2021, and our target group for this project are teenagers between 13 and 18 years old. Therefore, we have two important project partners. The one is called CHOOSY. It's an organization for youth counseling, and the other one is an education and career consulting organization, because they both speak the language of the young people, and with them we are conveying information better. This now is a machine translated English version of the website, which is not perfect. We're working on an official English translation, not because the project is going international, but in Lower Austria, or in all of Austria, we have a lot of young people from immigrant families whose German is not proficient enough yet, but we also want to reach them. So I go to German website now because the English version, the functionality is very limited. So we have three core parts. The first is green jobs itself, then it's the green companies in Austria, and green education. And first of all, we always ask what are green jobs and what is our project about. And since we don't want to relay our information only by dull information, written information, we have produced a lot of videos. I'm not showing the whole video now, but it just should give you a glimpse of what it looks like, how we introduce the young people to our project. Then when we go to here, the green jobs, we have a whole list of what variety of green jobs exists, like in different industries. And like here we have sustainable living and economy in commerce, industry, tourism. If you click on that bubble, it gives you a list of all the job titles there are. And again, here's a slow explanation. And if you click on the icon, once again, you go to videos. We produced a lot of videos directly at the companies with young people there, which kind of serve like role models for all the interested people looking at this online tool. And we're always in tight cooperation with the companies. Like here, you can choose. You can see the map now. There's a map, and you can choose your own district. Like for young people, we want them to see if they have any green companies in their environment. So in our case, this would be St. Pölten, and then they see, okay, close to me, there are these companies, again with a video of the company, the contact data, the companies introduce themselves, where they are, what they do, who they are, and at the end, usually there is some kind of action call telling the people, if you're interested in a sustainable environment and believe in our product, please apply at our company. And then we have a lot of schools involved, like our department, like the energy and environmental department. We have a network of more than 200 schools, which have different focuses in sustainable activities. And here, again, you have all this list serves for the people to see, okay, where do I find the right education, at what place exactly. And at the end, it's important for us that companies cooperate with schools. And therefore, we also provide a lot of workshops, which we start, like the project launch, as I said, was in 2021, and it dynamically evolved it was at the end of 2022. At the beginning of 2023, we started with workshops. In these workshops, you can just contact us, and we send you either the CHOOSY, like the youth counseling organization, or another youth counseling organization. We have 6 different ones to cover all of Lower Austria, who were taught with all the materials for these workshops by the CHOOSY. And they go directly to the schools, and you get a lot of materials. Like you can see here, they can download, like the teachers there, the job guidance teachers. They can download after the workshops. They can download on their own these kind of games for the schools to give them more orientation in this field. And you have the Padlet. Anyway, you have a lot of different materials. And the next step for this project will be that we offer excursions for schools who have completed the workshops already, that they go directly to the companies to see what is the job like there, what's the company like, in order to be like a link between the companies who are, especially in Austria, they're searching really hard for skilled labor. So to be the link between the companies and their potential employees. And we also have stakeholders like the Chamber of Commerce, the business agency in Lower Austria. They provide us with a lot of input, how we can make this project even more approachable. But also it's for them good because they can inform their companies and their own network that we have this kind of project, and again serve as a link between schools, young potential employees, and the companies. And at the end, I want to mention that this project has been growing big in the last month, and now we're already in the next phase and want to add to Green Jobs for You, which is aimed at the youth. We want to add another project called Green Jobs for Adults, and it's for adults who are already working, but for idealistic reasons want to switch their jobs. Yeah, that would be it. That's it for now.
Thank you so much, Marcus. And I think one of the reasons that we're particularly keen to share this experience in Lower Austria is that you make it so easy for schools to connect with employers. And if we remember what Young was saying at the beginning, that there is complexities around what is a green job. And we're going to know that a lot of employers in the green sector are finding it difficult to recruit people with the talent and skills which they need for these roles. And so by connecting the schools, making it easy for the schools to connect with the employers and to understand what's happening, we're going to make it easy for students in turn to understand while they're still in education what they can need to do to be able to progress well towards, to understand and progress towards those jobs. So Marcus, we're going to come back to you in our discussion, but we're going to move on now from Austria to the UK, where we're going to welcome David Blackmore from the World Wildlife Fund in the UK to talk about a different approach to supporting the development of green understanding of employment opportunities there. So David, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anthony, and hopefully you can all see my screen. Okay, I'll just double check. Yeah, great. So really excited to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm David Blackmore and I'm head of sustainable careers at WWF UK. So we're the charity behind the panda logo, and you might associate us with saving tigers, elephants, and all kinds of endangered wildlife. But a lot of our work is actually also about people and places. So we work with people to fix climate change and to stop nature loss. So in my role, I lead our education work around careers and supporting young people to learn about and gain access to sustainable career opportunities. So our flagship careers program is Sustainable Futures, and I've got a short video to give you a flavor of what it's all about. So you should hear the sound. If it don't, please let me know.
I actually learned a lot that was really helpful for my future career path.
It's important that young people learn about sustainability and how it can affect all careers, because ultimately all careers will involve sustainability.
Our priorities are ensuring that our students are ready for the labour market and ready to make informed choices.
Apologies.
So Sustainable Futures really slots in well to that ethos.
The course is split into 3 key modules.
What I enjoyed most about the Sustainable Futures course was that it informed you about core values that you need to have and things that you usually wouldn't be able to pick up by yourself.
We've been able to engage with industry experts. We've been able to provide our students with not just insights, but real life opportunities for them to be able to present, to be challenged, to be questioned, come up with ideas, pitch those ideas, and those are evaluated. And these are things that in the normal school curriculum are hard to get in and hard to get the experts in to deliver. Not just does it provide them with the knowledge and also the expertise, but also provides them with the skills and the experiences that they normally won't get.
You are going to design a sustainable space, okay, a sustainable office.
I was surprised by how useful the information was, because mainly I didn't expect it to be relevant to me, but it's able to give me insight on what I could do.
As they come into the workforce and start to target jobs and careers for themselves, the more they know about sustainability, the more they know about the trends of the wider world and how they can impact it, the more employable they will be.
The programme activities can help meet Gatsby's benchmarks of good career guidance, the learning areas for CDI's career development framework, and also the programme of study for PSHE's learning opportunities.
I think it's incredibly important for students to learn about sustainability within their careers and also within the wider national curriculum. Not only just because it's absolutely a pivotal time right now for this issue, but also because it's their generation that's affected by it.
I would definitely recommend this course for everyone because I was able to figure out how you can include sustainability in any career that you have.
So that's just a short clip to give you a little bit of an overview. But basically, last academic year, we launched the programme. And the reason we launched it was to address the urgent need to prepare young people for the future job market. And tackling the climate and nature crises will take a skilled and diverse workforce, and every job can play its part. And that's really the key message with our programme, is that all careers can and must be sustainable. So it's a free programme for secondary schools and colleges across the UK that equips students with the knowledge, skills and experiences to help them thrive in a future green economy, no matter what career path they go on to choose. And sustainability, as you can imagine, is threaded right throughout the 3 student activities. And those 3 activities are a student course to help build that foundational knowledge. Then they have a business role model talk, so they can apply what they've been learning into the world of work context. And then finally, they can access an experience of the workplace, so they can work on a real business challenge or project related to sustainability within that organization. We also provide CPD training, so training for careers leaders and teachers on sustainability within careers. And the sort of ultimate goal for our program is we want sustainability to become embedded in careers guidance. And the program is available to all schools and colleges and their students, but we also provide some additional support to engage students from less advantaged backgrounds and diverse communities. So you can see on the screen, since we launched 20 months ago, over 5,000 students have accessed our student course. Close to 5,000 have heard someone in person or virtually talk to their students about their career and how sustainability is part of it. Over 400 have accessed an experience of the workplace where the sustainability focus is the key point. And then I mentioned we have a focus on young people from low-income households, so they're eligible for something called free school meals in England. For people who are eligible for free school meals and or from ethnically diverse communities. So young people from those underrepresented groups, 162 of them, we took them through all 3 parts of the programme, facilitated by WWF and our corporate partners. And the reason we did that is because there's a severe lack of diversity when it comes to ethnicity in the environment sector. It's actually the 2nd least diverse sector in the UK. So we wanted this programme to try and address that issue as well. And then nearly 800 teachers and career leaders have accessed our free training as well. But it's not just about the numbers, we really want to focus on the impact. So we've commissioned the International Centre for Guidance Studies at the University of Derby, who are currently undertaking a whole programme evaluation for us, which will be ready in the autumn. But they provided some initial data on young people that have participated in that enhanced programme. So that's all 3 of the activities, and that's working with those 162 young people from underrepresented groups. So as you can see on the screen, this is some of the sort of key data I wanted to pull out. So that knowledge, that environmental literacy that Young was talking about, is really important to have that as a base. So 92% reported an increase in their knowledge of sustainability, and 94% understood the role of business in building a sustainable future. So that was up from only 61% before they started the program. And then thinking how that might change their attitude. So 86% are excited to work in sustainability in the future, and 80% thought it would be easy to get a job in sustainability in the future. And that was up from only 43% before we did the program. So really understanding what is a sustainable career, what are those pathways, hearing from role models to conceptualize, and bring it actually to life of what a sustainable career means. And then finally, how can that change behaviors? So 71% did something to make a difference to the environment after the program, and 71% influenced a family member or a friend to be doing good for the environment. And we actually have some stats on influencing politicians and businesses, which is slightly lower considering their age. This is mainly aimed at 14 to 18-year-olds, but we have some younger students and older students using it as well. And then I just wanted to leave this up for a minute, just so you can read what some of the students thought about the program. And there's one that I particularly wanted to pull out, and it's the green one on the right-hand side, which I'll read out. So this came from a student after they took part in the full program, and this is what they said after the Insight Day, the experience of the workplace at one of our corporate partners. Not gonna lie, before this, I had no interest, or not being rude, even hated sustainability. It had nothing to do with me. The last 3 sessions have been so fun and engaging, and I've learned so much. And that really is what we're trying to focus on in the program. It's open to all students, but we're also trying to reach those students that think sustainability or green careers have nothing to do with them, and actually work with them to understand and tie it into their values and their motivations that all careers can be greener or more sustainable. So that was a really powerful quote from that young person. And then finally, I mentioned we do offer some free CPD for educators as well. So some stats I've pulled out on the screen really focused on increasing the confidence of those educators, because that was something we knew was fairly low across the board on the topic of green careers and sustainable careers, especially within careers leaders. So there were other topics where there were sort of sharp increases, such as learning about climate change, biodiversity, and sustainability. But the 3 on the screen I wanted to pull out are related to careers guidance. So talking about their confidence levels, 87% felt confident in supporting students into roles linked to sustainability after the training. It was only 24% that felt confident before the training. 82% felt confident in careers and educational pathways on sustainability, only 29% before the training. And then finally, 90% felt confident on green careers information and its impact on the labour market, and that was only 29% before the training with those attendees. So that's just a little initial bit of impact data I wanted to share with you. We've just started getting it in, and an overview of the programme. Also, I'm aware there might be people not from the UK on this call. You can still go to our website. You can access our student course. They're free to download on there, and you can have a look through them, see if it works for you and your learners. You can adapt them as you see fit as well, or you can pull bits out of them. So I'll post that in the chat if it's not already there. Yeah, thanks for your time. That's it from me for now.
Well, thank you so much, David. That were 2 excellent presentations, and they both illustrate a point which Young was making at the beginning, that green guidance isn't something separate, but green guidance, to be effective, really needs to be fully integrated in guidance systems, where we're encouraging students from a young age to develop a critical faculty to reflect on their future roles, how they relate to their values, their own abilities, their interests. And by ensuring that there's these authentic opportunities to engage with people in work, whether it's through the career talks or it's through workplace visits, this is really important, because we know from our longitudinal studies that such activities, you can be very confident, will be associated ultimately with better outcomes for young people. They're learning things which they didn't know before, which they can make good use of. So David, we're going to come back to you, as with Marcus early on. And in a moment, we're going to go to Peter, who is, I feel very comfortable in saying is the leading academic working in this field. And we've been very inspired by his work for asking him for a response to the state of green guidance around the world. But before we do that, we're going to do a poll. We're going to ask you some questions. So Don Wook had asked you to, my colleague Don Wook, to put up the poll. And as he does so, just remind people, we did have a bit of a problem with our chat. It's fully functioning now. So we've had 1 or 2 questions already. If you have a question for any of our speakers, put it in the chat and we'll do our best to get to it in the discussion session, which will be in about 10 minutes. So for now, I want you to give us some of your views. I'd ask you to choose the 3 which are most important to you. So you can, the question is, what types of support would be most beneficial to you in enhancing green guidance in your context, in your country, in the work that you do? We'd ask you to choose the top 3 answers, the 3 things which are most important to you. So I'm going to give you all a moment to make your choices. I'm going to give you 30 more seconds to do so. So we have access to up-to-date resources, materials, professional development and training, networking opportunities for other educators, partnerships with local employers, businesses, green industries, funding and grants for green initiatives. Is that something that would be most beneficial to you? Or engagement with wider civil society within this process? So I'm going to give you 10 more seconds and then we're going to close the poll. So I'm going to count you down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So Don Wook, could you close the poll and show us the results? And here we go. So the areas which are of greatest, we've got 3 areas of particularly high forms of support, which would be beneficial. Access to up-to-date resources and materials. That should be the easy part, but that's an issue for many people. Professional development and training, also sort of like in strong demand, and partnerships with local businesses in green industries. And these are themes which emerged in the 2 presentations we've got, but also in our working paper. So we're going to close the poll now, take that down, and I'm going to hand over to Peter Plant, Professor Peter Plant from the University of Southeastern Norway. And I'm going to ask him a question about how close you feel we are, Peter, to providing green guidance for all students. Peter, are you there?
Oh, I'm here, but I live in the countryside. I have a wireless connection that doesn't always work, but I think the sound is okay, isn't it?
The sound's very good. So
that's fine.
I think this is a good approach.
Yeah, it's a good start, isn't it? I'll just on a personal note, of course, for me, after engaging in this particular area for 30 years now, when I wrote some of my first stuff on green guidance, it's quite rewarding to see that it's not just a one-man operation anymore. It's certainly catching on, and the OECD report, of course, reveals that it's all over the place, which was peripheral. What was peripheral, in the beginning is now becoming mainstream. In that process, of course, where green guidance and green career education, by the way, which we haven't mentioned so much, is now becoming much more mainstream. Of course, there is a risk that it's being taken over by all kinds of other agendas. And I just wanted to put that into the discussion here. I mean, sometimes when discussing green guidance, it actually it touches a little bit on greenwashing. And I think perhaps we should try to see whether we could in fact address that as well. Would that be possible to address in the curricular guidelines where and how, with the focus on green careers and green guidance? In fact, we are into this neighboring country, this neighboring area, which is greenwashing. I see this because I've been working, quite a few years now in Norway. Norway is an oil-producing industry, an oil-producing country. It's very important. Industries linked with the oil is really important, and it's interesting to see that in particular Norway, that's where my example is from, have now, given this whole area of green jobs and green guidance a real lift. the national state television, it's called NRK, Norsk Rikskringkasting, has in fact made a whole string of very nice videos with, you know, very nice young people showing how green jobs can unfold in practice. And it's interesting to see, this is one of the many examples. The example from Austria was another example. And Marcus, thank you very much for showing some of the videos from Lower Austria. But it was interesting to see that in Norwegian examples, in fact, the idea of sustainable jobs is taken quite a bit further, and also quite a bit into the area which was not so highlighted in the poll here, civil society, which is quite interesting in itself. And I'm sure David Blackmore will have much more to say about the role of civil society in this area. But it was interesting to see that and this is my example, the state television, the series on green jobs, in fact, in Norway included the whole sector of NGOs, civil society, and so on. And I think there is an interesting area also in the border areas between the two. And I'm sure that David might have more to say on this. So also perhaps a few words on the idea of defining a bit more what we're talking about. I see that all countries are struggling with this. What is this sustainability anyway? And what is the role of guidance and career education in this? And sometimes it might be helpful to look back into, for instance, what from the United Nations came much earlier than the present United Nations many goals, which was the Brundtland report, another Norwegian, by the way. They tried to unfold in those days, and this is 20 years back, the whole idea of sustainability into at least 3 or 4 different areas. And one, of course, was the economic area, the labor market area, the economies, and so on. Another was the whole, if you like, climate, organic movement and area linked with that, the biodiversity and so on. But they had 2 more. They had 2 more areas which they included into the idea of sustainability. And one was the social sustainability, and the 4th one is sometimes named the cultural sustainability areas. And I'm putting this into the discussion because it might be of interest also to some of the other panelists and some of our members of the society here, that in fact we need to see sustainability issues in a very broad context. And I've seen one example, and I noticed that David Blackmore mentioned this. The University of Derby has in fact taken this up. I've been an advocate, of course, of this broad definition for a long time, but it was interesting to see that the University of Derby has been interested very much in social justice issues, and they are now linking green guidance and green career issues with the whole area of social justice. So here we have links with other policy areas and other practice areas as well. So I'm putting these things into discussion because I think they might be of interest to discuss. What do we actually mean by this? How broad is our definition? And where do we want to take our students in this? We have some wonderful examples. This is our colleague Stefania Maggi from the eastern part of Canada. And she's taking this area, green guidance area, right into the area of activism. She's training her students to be green activists. Is this what we want to do? How far do we want to go in this area? How much do we want them to play a role in civil society as seeing themselves not just as wage earners, but in fact as civil activists in the green area? So I'm mentioning this because that's perhaps an extreme example, but an interesting one. But on the whole, I'd see that with green guidance, we see a renewed relevance of career guidance and career education, and people are certainly picking up both on a practical level, but also on an academic level. I mean, I have students from Malta to Norway writing master's theses on green guidance of all kinds these days. And just yesterday was my latest example of that. And my students, the Norwegian one, in fact, was looking into the whole issue of greenwashing in terms of green careers. So that's just, you know, current examples, but they are certainly spreading all over the place. So thank you very much for taking up this, and I congratulate also the OECD and everyone that you made such a wonderful comprehensive report. It's wonderful to have a big organization like OECD behind this. And what we've done so far was just stepping stones on the way. You're taking it quite a bit further. So thanks very much to you, Anthony, and in particular to Jan.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. Certainly this is a collaborative effort, and we benefited very much from, we had interviews with, I think, 30 different program designers and practitioners around the world. And I think we see this as, I think, pretty much as a first step to try and make sense of green guidance within what we understand to be the more effective approaches to guidance in general, and thinking about the examples of practice and practical examples which people can, you know, look at. And some are kind of big, very big programs, as Marcus described. Some of them are quite much smaller. There are sort of like a range of sort of like issues here, and we've kind of picked up some of them. We did invite people to put their questions and comments into the chat, so we'll prioritize those and then see how much time we have. Just finishing off where you were talking about, Peter, in terms of research into this field and how far it has come. And clearly, as with the whole breadth of sort of like guidance policy, it's important to have, you know, more serious research in this whole field. But Vicky asks about, you know, where do we see the real gaps? You know, she's just starting a PhD in this field. She's looking to focus some of her studies to make it as effective as possible for the wider community. Peter, perhaps I might ask you about where you see the priorities for future research in this field.
Yeah, if I'm starting off on this one, I'm sure others have other things to say as well. I would say that, in fact, one of the important things here would be to work on the work experience programs and how to refine them. I'm sure there's a lot of work already being done in this field, but so much, you know, work experience up until now anyway, has been individuals trying out the individual approaches to their individual wishes and dreams for the future. And if we want to see this as a more, if you like, collective movement in terms of environmental, you know, optimism, but also knowledge, I'm sure that the links between theoretical schooling and work experience programs of various kinds, and these can also be games, and you know, there's a variety of these. David might have more to say at this, and Marcus perhaps also, and Jeanette. But that would be my priority, if you like. That would be linking practice and schooling and theoretical backgrounds.
I mean, as somebody who's writing a paper at the moment on what we would see as best practice around work experience programs, we would certainly welcome more research in this field, that's for sure. But let's move over to sort of like Marcus and David, and you may have comments on that question. But also, let's start with you, David, because we had a question from James, which is the extent to which you're really reliant on enthusiasts, you know, enthusiastic teachers within the community. You know, how do you identify them? How do you support them? But also, how do we scale up our programs? And so, David, we'll go to you first, and then over to you, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a fantastic question, and we don't have the exact answer yet. But what we try to do is we need for things to be sustainable, obviously, and programs to last and be embedded within schools. It's a mix. You need that really sort of passionate and driven individual, but you also need that sort of senior leadership team and governor buy-in as well. So what we are trying to do, so we launched this last academic year, it's been 20 months running. We're trying to make it as easy as possible and trying to make curriculum links where possible. So for example, in the UK, the PSHE and citizenship curriculum and obviously the careers curriculum lend itself very well to the sort of content that we're trying to teach. We get feedback from schools that understandably there's so much going on, the curriculum time is extremely squeezed. So the other thing we try and do is connect these passionate individuals to a wider network of other schools and colleges and how they are delivering the program. So we're developing a number of case studies where we can show that some schools are using this as like an extracurricular activity, some are embedding it across whole year groups as well, and trying to make those connections so you can speak to peers to help understand some of the challenges, because yeah, it's all good having these programs, but the reality, like you said, of finding space, getting other people on board is something quite challenging. In the UK, we have the Department for Education has a sustainability and climate change strategy where they want every school or college to have a sustainability lead. So we're trying to tie it into existing frameworks and strategies to raise the importance. Also, in the video it mentioned we map to like career development frameworks such as Gatsby benchmarks, CDI. So we're really trying to tie it into what are the priorities of that school or college, and how can we say, not just to that passionate individual, but to everyone from senior leaders right across the school, this is important, this will work towards what you have as some of your priorities. But we've still got a fair way to go, but that's what we're trying to do, and we've seen has worked, but there's still a bit of a gap we're trying to fill.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, David. I mean, I think as an external organisation, an independent, not-for-profit, so looking to work with education, you'll have a kind of a set of challenges in getting people to buy in to, you know, and to the offer. But it seems that you're enjoying quite a lot of success in engaging the school community. Marcus, your position is slightly different. You work for the government in Lower Austria. You're kind of like part of the system. You know, what's your experience been in securing support, you know, from teachers, from principals, from schools? Do you have any advice, you know, for countries? You're in a better position perhaps than David is because you're part of the system. But, you know, what challenges have you encountered? And do you have any advice for people who are looking to engage schools in this way?
Yeah, that is true. And like for many years already, we're coordinating a network of schools. Like now, right now, it's about 250 schools with sustainable activities, like Lower Austrian schools. And it's kind like, for example, now with this project, with the Green Jobs project, it's quite easy to identify and approach the right teachers, because what we learned in the past was if you approach some school leader who isn't that interested and maybe just gives the responsibility to some of his teachers, it won't work that well. But often you just know this is the right person. Like this school leader knows who wants to do it, and we have at the different schools we usually have at least one, but usually whole teams of teachers who do those activities, different sustainable activities in their schools, and that makes it easy for us to identify the right ones. So it's difficult for me now to give an advice how you would do that from scratch on. But usually, if you have to, again, with the backing of the regional government, but if you have the possibility for getting in contact with those schools through news flashes, through your own website, and so on, then it's often the best opportunity when the teachers themselves contact you. If you contact them, then there's always like, I don't know, 10-20% chance that you reach the right contact person. So it's always the best way to let them know the exact information, but to let them act first. And then you usually have those really ambitious teachers, because there are so many ambitious teachers. Like I said, in the past, it always was only the problem to find those ambitious teachers. That school leaders themselves often just thought like, okay, this person in my team is quite organized, I will let her or him do this. But they sometimes didn't have their heart and mind in that issue.
Thanks, Marcus. You know, so even if you're inside government, you know, there's still an important role for communications and making it easy for people to connect and engage. Peter, let me bring you back in, and then I'll raise another question.
I just got so inspired by these two responses that I just wanted to add that, of course, there is and should be an emphasis on, you know, enthusiastic individuals, you know, but they need some kind of framework and support to actually be in that role and to sustain that role. I'm sure that we'd agree on that. I just wanted to point to some countries that in fact have done that. They've taken the approach of not just the bottom-up approach, but also the top-down one. And Ireland is a wonderful example of that, as you've probably seen, where you know, sustainability issues and career guidance, green career guidance, topics and issues and so on run through the whole educational system. And that is a curricular development. It's a conscious curricular guideline movement, and it's backed by a broad array of politicians on a national level. I'm saying this because individuals, enthusiastic individuals, also need some kind of structural support, and I think it's important to have both. And I'm sure that David will have much more and also Marcus to say about this, but that was my main point just now.
Yeah, no, it's a really important point, and I think that's one of the things which we find when we did our own survey is that in most cases we're still in the stage where we have perhaps relatively isolated initiatives, some which involve big numbers, but we're not yet moved to the state where we have systematically across countries green guidance built into sort of guidance. In many countries we see from PISA, a lot more needs to be done to get guidance itself in general up to the stages where it should be. We've got loads of questions coming in. I wanted to ask something about the point about social justice within all of this. I also wanted to ask something about sort of measuring success. So we'll do one final round before we finish. And I'm going to give you, our contributors, the opportunity to decide what you want to speak on. The extent to which we feel that's kind of social justice aspects should be built into green guidance, or tell me about what you think is the best best means of measuring success in these fields, what you use. So let's start with you, Peter, and then we'll go to David and Marcus, and then we'll need to wrap up. And we won't have the closing poll done just for a couple of minutes, okay?
Yeah, this will be a short intervention. I think I was, along with David, the one that actually introduced the links between social justice and green careers and green guidance. What we see in many countries, of course, that green approaches and green jobs might be a new social dividing mechanism. It might be the ones who will have more, and the ones who don't will have less. And I think it's really important that we address those two issues in a parallel way. And I'm very inspired, and I work with the people in the University of Derby on these issues. And in fact, we do workshops together on this. But it's interesting to see that they were seen as separate issues in the beginning. And I think we're actually getting to the point where we need now that see that green guidance and green jobs and the green transition is an overarching issue. And it includes lots of different disciplines. And I think this is a very nice example of that.
Cool. David, over to you.
Yeah, just to add to Peter's point, I think it needs to be stopped being seen as like green careers as a separate sector, because that's not helpful. Young people and adults might switch off, say that doesn't apply to me. And as he said as well, we adopt sustainable careers. So ours are careers that contribute towards the UN SDGs, because you can have an environmental sustainable career that is, not contributing towards that social pillar as well. So it's really important to look at it holistically and tap into the values of the young people or the adults. So they're bringing that sustainable thinking into every single career, thinking, is it socially sustainable? Is it environmentally sustainable? And economic, there's obviously different models. And in our course, we talk about different, circular economy, donut economics. And we also talk about greenwashing, Peter, which you mentioned. So they develop their critical thinking. So we're not telling them what ones are and not. We ask them, how can they think and how can they make a judgment themselves? So I think you need to look at it all together. And I think this needs to be a transition, like a fair and just one, where everyone is part of it. And you have to look at it holistically. You can't look at it as certain individual sections.
Thanks, David. And a final, very quick word, if I may say, word from you, Marcus.
Yep. David just took out at the end the words of my mouth, because I wanted to talk about the roadblock we have right now in our project, and that's the problem about greenwashing. It's very difficult for us, even in the workshops, to teach the students how to identify companies who are actually only greenwashing, because everybody writes a lot about sustainability on their website. So now we are trying to start a cooperation with an NGO to support us in our project and make the students aware more about greenwashing and how they identify it. But that is a future challenge.
Excellent. Thanks, Marcus. So Don, can we put up our final poll, please? And just while we put the poll up, I'm going to ask you to. We said we feel that this work is towards the beginning of our work here on sustainable guidance, green guidance. We have 6 choices about where you think that we should put our focus in to like further work in this area. I just want to do a snap poll to ask you what you feel. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Choose three topics where you think it'd be great to see more work. Thank you so much as you're doing this to our speakers and to you, our participants, for engaging here. Please go and have a look at the paper. You know, sign up to our mailing list if you want to know about when the shorter summarizing paper comes out. As we're getting these final results, let me thank Young for leading our work in this area and her sort of setting of the scene for the paper. Let me thank Marcus and his colleagues in Lower Austria for their contribution and for their sharing their excellent work. For David from the UK, sharing his excellent work there. And of course, Peter Plant, you know, who we're delighted to have involved in this session. We could probably go on for another hour or two, but I'm sure we have other things that we need to do. So let's just bring our poll to a close. Donwood, can you show us the results? And integration strategies, that's important. Training, professional development opportunities for practitioners. And then we have employer engagement and case study successful programs. So this is something for us to take away. Remember, you can always get in touch with us here at the OECD. We're going to be publishing more over the summer. So watch this space. And let me just finish now by just like thanking everybody and thanking you and wishing you all a very good day. Thanks very much.